It was good, y'all. It's your boy JD6 here. I'm with my man. Shout out to KC Sports Authority. Make sure y'all go check that podcast out, man.
You heard the man. Is it football season? Not quite, but seeing Jalen Daniels there, it does feel pretty good considering how things have been going on the basketball front. Who would have thought we'd be sitting here talking about a disappointing KU basketball season? And that's what we're going to talk about tonight here on the podcast. King Russell JB here with you on the KC Sports Authority podcast. Welcome to our podcast. If you're checking out for the first time, thank you so much for joining us. You can find us over here on YouTube. Hit that subscribe and like button below. That way you can always come back for our future episodes. You can also find us over on Spotify if you like to listen on the go. Wherever you do check us out from, thank you so much. Hit that subscribe button, share it with a friend, and continue on in this journey with us. You can also hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at KCSA Pod. Well, JB, let's talk a little bit about Kansas basketball. It is now the worst Big 12 record we've ever had in the Bill Self era, which is good and bad. Good because we've been super spoiled, and it's still better than a lot of other teams' bad years, or great years too. But bad in the sense of we're nowhere close to our expectations. KU goes into the weekend against Baylor, another big-time top 15 matchup, loses 82-74. I think we all saw that coming. There was nothing about this team that really impresses you enough to go win on the road. We've said that all season. But, all in all, if you look at the box score, it wasn't a terrible game. I thought KU played pretty decently, so we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll, of course, talk the K-State matchup coming up, a good bounce-back game against the home state rival on senior night. A lot of stuff there. We'll talk a little bit about Kevin McCullar. And then, of course, what the postseason looks like. But JB, before I get into the Baylor game, just how are you feeling?
Man,
it's been rough for you, hasn't it?
It really has. I love that you started off the podcast like, is it football season? I was like, I wish, because I was just thinking about that earlier today. I was like, man, should I just tweet out that like can't wait until football season, and I'm a Kansas fan and I can't wait until football season? Because this is the more I think about this year's team, the more it just frustrates me, the more I'm just so annoyed. The more annoyed at how at the beginning of the season talked national title, and I am now convinced more than ever this is a second round exit. This team is a second round exit in the March Madness tournament. I don't even need to see the bracket, and I'm going to put that second round exit on my bracket, because at this point that's what we are. I mean, I don't even know, man. I think this team had so much potential, and I'm sitting here thinking what even caused this. And I think I kind of go back to like, well, we lost Arterio Morris, and that would have certainly made us better, but we've done the whole season without him. And we've shown flashes of brilliance without him. So where did those flashes go? And I got to thinking, I was like, man, that K-State game that we lost in overtime in Brownridge, I think that just killed our confidence for the rest of the season. So that's kind of where I'm at. And, you say we're looking ahead to a K-State matchup, and God, I am not excited. I'm not looking forward to that game. I am terrified that they're going to beat us. It's not going to. I'm just like, I'm.
It almost does feel like they
confident.
have more to play for than we do.
They do. I mean, they've got tournament hopes, right? I mean, are they on the bubble?
They're still somewhat of a bubble team. They need to either get a good win against Kansas or do some damage in the Big 12 tournament. But they're probably most likely on the outside looking in with a small chance of making it, but they've got more to play for still.
Well, as much as I want to say I'm confident that we can beat them, I'm really not. I think, I don't know, my confidence level, I'm sorry, I feel like this is probably really bad for our listeners and for our viewers, but you guys, man, I'm sorry, I'm just a Debbie Downer today. I'm wearing all black. This is like the funeral of our team. I'm just like done. I'm done with us. I'm ready for next season. I'm ready for football season. I'm ready for next season. Hopefully Hunter's back. We'll talk about that in future episodes for the off-season content. But yeah, long-winded answer, but that's just kind of where I'm at today.
Yeah, it's one of those things where this year just feels like the cards aren't completely in our favor. You come into the year pretty excited, pretty ecstatic about this roster. You feel like you got a lot of great pieces. You land Hunter Dickinson in the offseason, biggest transfer portal candidate probably of all time up until this point. A lot of excitement and optimism, and then just some of the pieces haven't been fitting right. Kevin McCullar gets his injuries. Just a lot of things that just haven't really gone our way this year. But the thing is, the season's not really lost just yet, maybe in the sense of our standards from what we're used to, but we're still a top 15 team. Even after the loss, we'll still be a top 15 team. It's just for KU standards, this has been a very disappointing season. But let's see if I can give you guys a little bit of optimism. So let's talk about the Baylor game for a second here. I'm going to kind of go through a little bit of the recap. Honestly, if you missed the game and you just check the box score, KU loses 82-74. They had a 1-point deficit at halftime. Baylor ended up winning the second half by 7 points, and a lot of that, honestly, was the last 5-6 minutes of the game. But if you look at the box score, really wasn't that bad all around. We did get the news that Kevin McCullar was going to be back, and of course he did play. That was great to see him back. Definitely needed that. He looked okay. He scored 20 points, 9 of 15 shooting. Wasn't terrible, but still not quite efficient like we were hoping to see. When I look at the box score here, KU still shoots 55% from the floor. So not a bad shooting night. 4 of 13 from 3, which, let's be honest, for KU, that's pretty dang good this year. Still missed a couple open ones. Rebounds, they did get out rebounded 31-23, which is kind of disappointing, especially from KJ's perspective. He was terrible on the boards. Baylor got a lot of long rebounds that just kind of went their way. But you get 5 blocks, 5 steals. You only had 8 turnovers yourself while forcing 11 on the other side. And you scored 17 points off turnovers. And you led in the paint 46-36. So on paper, not too bad. Here's where the game really came down to. KU had 18 fouls to Baylor's 7. Baylor went 15 of 20 from the free throw line, and we only shot 8 free throws total. If you did watch the game, there were plenty of moments where the game was very physical. I'll say this. From the start of the game, it was very physical, and for a long time, the refs were letting things go and letting guys play physically. That kind of started to shift. I'm of the opinion that there were a few missed calls, and of course, Bill Self got pretty heated on a few things. But as far as the free throw game's concerned, I think a lot of that was just because Baylor was the aggressive team. KU was not as aggressive in the paint. Apparently, Yves Missi, when he plays Kansas, he's freaking Giannis Antetokounmpo, and dunks from everywhere on the court, is unguardable. He's had 2 of his best games of the season were coming against Kansas, who has a 7-footer next to him, but Hunter did not defend him very well. Neither did KJ. But Baylor was just the more aggressive team offensively. They got a couple good shots late in the shot clock, especially in the second half, and just kind of barely squeezed out. KU had a good chance the last 4 minutes there, but ended up dropping it. But again, still things to feel optimistic about in this game. Of course, getting Kevin McCullar back was fantastic. Scores 20 points. Goes 9 of 19 from the floor. 0 for 5 from 3. That's a bummer there. Missed all of his 3-pointers. Not a great 3-point shooting performance from him. Gets 5 rebounds, couple steals. So he looked kind of like standard Kevin McCullar. And you could tell that when he was in the game, it definitely made a big impact on both sides of the ball. It gave us another weapon offensively to move the ball around. And defensively, it's a guy back there that he can do what he's supposed to. But the downside of this game, KU still looked sloppy. When the starters were not on the floor, the bench was, for the most part, terrible. El Marco had about a 4-minute stretch offensively that was decent. Hit a couple big threes. Looked pretty decent offensively, but still had a couple bonehead turnovers, had 5 fouls on the defensive side. Not his best performance. Parker Brown had a few moments early on, but then he twisted his ankle and was out. Timberlake still, only took 1 shot, 1 3-pointer, and it was kind of a hesitant 3-pointer late in the game that, of course, missed. So still not a lot of rhythm and motion with this team, especially with the bench. Bill Self tried this weird rotation. And I would say it's weird. I give him credit for trying this, where about a minute and a half to go until the TV timeout, he would rotate in El Marco, Timberlake, and Jamari McDowell or Parker Brown. He would do like a 3-man substitution of sorts to get 3 starters out. But the starters or the bench was so bad that the 2 or 3 times he tried that, they couldn't even get to the under timeout, TV timeout, before he pulled the bench guys and put the starters back in. So still not a lot of rhythm there, not a lot working. Outside of Kevin, Hunter Dickinson was pretty good early on. I think second half kind of slowed down a bit. Baylor really locked in defensively down the stretch and made KU really get a lot of tough shots. That's kind of honestly when DeJuan Harris started to take over a little bit too. DeJuan looked pretty good. He was a little bit more aggressive, looking to find his shot. He goes 6 of 11, so taking 11 shots for DeJuan's big. I did love to see that. Need to see some more of it. So all around, I mean, there are bits and pieces from this game I think we can take away and be a little bit positive about. Still kind of disappointed with the 3-point shooting and the lack of free throws. I mean, this team's got to figure out how to get to the free throw line. We got to shoot 15 free throws a night to have a fighting chance. I mean, if you take half of Baylor's free throws away, this game's a tie game going into overtime. To me, that was kind of the story of it. Just Baylor was the more aggressive team downhill. KU got a lot of looks in the paint and still forced a lot of passes down there. But Baylor was driving and was aggressive. And Yves Misi, like I said, he was fantastic.
He's a stud.
Yeah, he's a stud. Like he's a guy that is sliding up draft boards quick. Let's just say that. But yeah, he has 2 of his best games. Goes for 21 against Kansas at Allen Fieldhouse a couple weeks ago, and then has 17 this time around, and just looked unstoppable, unguardable in the paint. Don't know how he only took 12 shots. He could have had 20 shots and gone for 40 somehow. But yeah, that's all I really want to cap off there. It was great to get Kevin back. Of course, we definitely know this team's ceiling is much higher with Kevin on the floor, and we definitely know that this team's going nowhere without him. But even with them, they still drop another game on the road, which again we're not really surprised about. But that turns our attention though to K-State senior night. Really, this is Kevin's night. In all honesty, I mean there's a couple guys on there. Jankovic, he's been around forever. Parker Brown's technically senior.
Oh, yeah.
But this is really kind of Kevin's night. So it was good to see him play Saturday because you hope that means he's going to play Tuesday night. With or without Kevin, though, I think they'll do just fine. I know, JB, you're feeling less optimistic, but senior night at home when Bill Self needs a big win going into a monster matchup on the weekend, if this game is not a double-digit win, I will be extremely disappointed. I feel like KU comes in fired up. Hunter's going for 20. Kevin's, I don't know. I don't know what to expect out of Kevin yet. I don't know if he'll replicate 20 points because he did go out a few times in that game with his knee. Still played 32 minutes. I think the one surprise, though, as I was looking at some of the box numbers, is Johnny Furphy. This was one of his first games he didn't notch over 30 minutes on the game log. He only played 24 minutes. Didn't look bad. Just they contained him really well, and he didn't have a lot of open shots. Goes 1 of 5 from the floor, 1 for 3 from 3. Didn't really feel like he was very involved in this. I thought his defense looked a little bit better, but for some reason just didn't get a lot of run time. And some of that was El Marco was playing decent offensively. It just kind of fit the matchups. But I fully expect this to be a big, big game Tuesday night. Hopefully we get Johnny Furphy going. I'd love to see that. But JB, as we look at Tuesday night specifically, what do you need to see from this team to feel at least a little bit more confident about our chances, not just in Houston this upcoming Saturday for another top 25 monster matchup? Obviously, the Big 12 is not on the line anymore, but there's still a lot of pride to go in and knock Houston off on their home court, and then heading into Big 12 play. But what do you need to see from this game Tuesday night to feel more confident about this team's capabilities down the stretch?
I starting with Johnny Furphy, I think he needs to get his 3-point shot back because he's been floundering. Let's be honest. It's been a little rough. I remember the BYU game. He did not have a good 3-point shooting night at all. I can't remember the specifics on like whether he was like 0 for 4 or whatever it was. But I just remember thinking there's a lot of scouts at that game.
Yeah, BYU, he was 0 for 5.
0 for 5. Perfect. Thank you. So he was 0 for 5 in front of all these NBA scouts. And it's like selfishly, I'm thinking maybe he will stay. I don't know. But that's a whole nother conversation. But no, I think he needs to get his 3-point shot back. He really was stepping up for us late in the season and was the X factor that really determined how much of a threat our team really can be. When he's been kind of taken out of the equation, and when Kevin has his hurt knee, and when Dewan is just Dewan, and he's not going to be ultra aggressive because that's not in his nature, we have only Hunter Dickinson to really turn to. And when Hunter can't make his free throws, which is the other thing I need to look for, I want free throws to be made. And we would be in such a better position if we just focused on our threes, focused on our free throws. If we focus on
I feel like we say this every year, though, and KU doesn't figure it out.
We never figure it out, and 3-point defense is always kind of our Achilles heel.
Oh yeah.
So it's at this point, I am, like I said earlier, I'm really not so optimistic. It's funny, I'm usually the optimist. Here, when you were recapping the Baylor game, you were the optimist in that scenario. You seem to kind of the way you put that game, it did kind of calm me down a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, like I said, outside of the last 6-7 minutes, I mean, it was pretty much a back and forth game. KU did a lot of good things early in the first half, early in the second half. Took the lead a few times here, and then Baylor just kind of hit some clutch shots. KU fell apart defensively here and there. And then, down the stretch, it kind of became we can't find a way to get a bucket. KJ was doing nothing. Murphy wasn't playing much. It was really Dewan trying to create a shot because Kevin was in and out of the game, and they kept swarming Hunter. I thought they did defend, even though Hunter still got his, which we've talked about, how it's so easy for him to get his. I thought in the second half they really defended him very well and made his shot selection very tough, which just kind of took away the rhythm of our offense. But outside of that, like I said, outside those 6-7 minutes towards the end of the game there, I mean, this was pretty much a quality back and forth. I remember sitting there at the first half. Even the score wasn't that high yet. But I was like, man, this is back and forth. This is going to be a barn burner. They're just going to go toe-to-toe and keep taking each other's swings. And then, of course, Baylor pulled out there at the end, got to the free throw line. And like I said, to me, this whole game was summed up at the free throw line. One team was more aggressive and got to the line. The other team was not. And the team that got to the line had 15 more or almost 10 more points from the line than we did.
I think if we fix those mistakes from the Baylor game, we apply those to Kansas State, we can right the ship, so to speak. And then moving into our game against Houston, man, I mean, I love the Big 12. I love the Big 12 titles. That's out of the question this season now. But I will admit, if we can beat the Big 12 champion twice in the season, that'll feel pretty darn good. And I think we need a win.
Most certainly would.
We need some momentum to be able to get that done, right? So ultimately, it seems obvious, but let's just get a win. Let's just beat little brother K-State, and I guess beat Houston, end the season, end the Big 12 play as a top 4 seed in the Big 12. Get a little bit of rest for the Big 12 tournament. We don't even have to win the Big 12 tournament. I don't care win or lose that tournament. Then it's March, and I know I just said earlier in this recording, I'm already marking it down, second round exit. But you know what? I might amend that if we can make some noise in the Big 12 tournament. But we'll see. I mean, it's been all season. We're hit or miss. So
having that, if we could go in, take the last 2 games here on the season, have some momentum, that would be huge. The way the Big 12 conference is this year with the extra teams, having that extra bye, that day of rest would be fantastic. It would feel really weird to see KU playing on the early day in the tournament because that's just, one, not what we're used to, but 2, you just know you're going to catch that Big 12 team who's got so much more to play for than us, that they come out and hit 12 threes in the first half, and we're back here having the same conversation we've had all season of what on earth is happening. So as we wrap up here, so K-State Tuesday night, big time matchup again. I'm not that worried about that. I think KU will be locked in. My only other worry I've had with this team is just from watching the body language is this team doesn't really look like they have a lot of fun playing outside of KJ. KJ's always fired up, but just something about watching some of the games, especially the games that they lose, and I know this is easy to say about any team, but the games that they lose, they just don't seem like they're out there enjoying playing together. Hunter's not really showing a lot of emotion unless he has a big dunk or something. DeJuan's never going to show emotion. So some of it's probably, not having Kevin in the lineup consistently. Furphy's a young guy, so he doesn't quite know how to play yet in this full scheme. But I think they just need to kind of play loose, play fun, actually go out there and enjoy the game. And I'm sure some of that's pressure from Self because he's upset about how they were performing. They just look like a team that is playing with pressure and not a team that's going out there to have fun. So maybe Jayhawk Nation as a whole, as the fans, we need to take some of that pressure off them. Hey, Big 12 race is over. Worst Big 12 season in the last 20 years. We've accepted it. Let's just go out in the season on a high note, get to the tournament because we all know however the regular season goes, it's all about March Madness anyway. So maybe as the fan base, we need to kind of lighten up some and just, speak some positivity into this team because I think if they just go out there loose and play with some fun energy, I think this team is very capable of still being a big time performer down the stretch. And Spencer was saying it to us off air earlier that there's been plenty of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 seeds that have done some damage in the tournament because they love to play and they play hard and they play gritty. And this team does do that. They just got to do it for a full 40 minutes. But so wrapping up here, if you look at bracketology right now, KU's kind of teetering between a 3 and a 4 seed, which is, again, kind of unusual territory for us Jayhawk fans, but probably well-deserved. I personally have them as a 4 seed right now. I don't even think whether we win or lose against K-State to me doesn't matter. I'm on the 4 seed line just because this team has not proven enough that they can win the games they should be winning. They're winning games against teams that are better than them at sometimes, but then they're dropping games in games that they shouldn't lose. So I'm a little back and forth on that. But in all honesty, and I said this to you guys earlier too, I'm of the opinion that KU's got a better shot going deep in this tournament if they play as a 3 or a 4 seed, just because of their path. I think they'll have less pressure on them. First off, being the 1 seed, there's always pressure. But I think for them being that 3 or 4 seed, that's just a different perspective to come and play with, where they might be playing with a chip on their shoulder, where they go in knowing, hey, we're not the heavy favorite anymore. So I actually think that's a positive thing for them right now. Joe Lenardi has them as the 3 seed in the East, going and playing out in the Boston area. I don't mind that. Would love for them to try and figure out how to get the 2 or the 3 seed in the West, because then they could potentially play in Omaha and just play close. But right now, that West bracket, if you guys have kind of looked at how Lenardi has it, it's like the weakest one of the bunch so far, where Iowa State's the 2 seed in that one. So I think that would be interesting with Marquette as the 1 seed. Don't like Marquette, but I'm sorry, Tennessee. Tennessee is the 1 seed in that bracket right now. But that's kind of my opinion. I think it might be better for us to go into at least March Madness as a little bit lower seed, regardless of kind of what happens in Big 12 tournament. I don't see us coming out of the Big 12 tournament doing much damage there myself. But what do you feel coming down the stretch here about this team ceiling still, and what's the best path for them moving forward?
Best path is if we are a 3 seed first and foremost, because if we're a 4 seed, we're going to be on the same side of the bracket as a 1. That being said, if our 1 seed is Tennessee, we beat them already. If that 1 seed or 2 seed that we run into is Tennessee, Marquette even. I know we lost to Marquette, but I feel like that was kind of like a fluky game. Granted, the rest of the season and how it's played out, maybe it wasn't a fluke. But I mean, I feel there's definitely some teams that I wouldn't be too afraid of to see as our 2 or our 1. Purdue scares me a little bit, but I feel like Purdue is always going to Purdue themselves.
Purdue's a one-man show.
It's like,
let Zach Edey get his 30. Who cares?
Yeah, like so there's a big part of me that wouldn't be afraid of them. I think I would be terrified if UConn was our 1 seed. Even though we've beat them already, I would be utterly terrified.
Totally different home matchup. I think they were without Stevan Castle that game. And that was honestly before Furphy really took off too. But yeah, UConn on a neutral site with the way they're playing right now. To me, UConn's the best team in basketball right now. They're a team I worry about. Tennessee I worry about just because of how they play, and Dalton Connect's a freaking walking bucket. Marquette, I still would not want to play again. I just don't think that's a good matchup at all for us. But outside of that, I mean, I think we've said this plenty of times throughout the season. One of the positives of the year in college basketball as a whole is there's not been that many teams that have truly separated themselves from the rest of the pack. Every team's kind of got an ugly loss or has had a big time moment that they've dropped. Almost every major top 15 team has had multiple losses on the road this year. Yes, Houston looks really, really good. Purdue looks really, really good. UConn looks really good. But this is probably a year in college basketball where it's not as top heavy as years past where you think, all right, KU, Duke, and then throw other teams in there. I mean, even Duke's teetering back and forth between a 2, 3, and a 4 seed themselves because they've had an up and down year. Kentucky, same thing. Right now, they're a 4 seed. Kentucky's one of the best offensive teams in the country. They just can't guard anything. They're scoring 110 a night, but they're giving up 100 a night. So I think that's kind of a positive for us, the fact that college basketball is just so different this year that any given night a team can go off. But to me, I mean, March Madness always comes down to two things: guard play and three-pointers. Those are the two things I think we struggle with the most. We are not a consistent three-point shooting team. And if DeJuan's not aggressive, we do not have the guard play to put up with some of these other teams like a Houston or a UConn. So those are the two things that worry me, I guess, down the stretch. But we have the experience. We've got the coach. To me, it's all about getting that right seed. And I think that 3 line could be pretty sweet for us this year. Could actually give us a little bit of a break heading into the tournament. But again, in order to get there, we got to do what we need to do against K-State Tuesday night. Has to be a win. Got to be a blowout. Give me a double-digit win. Last home game of the year, senior night. Would love to see them really fight into Houston. I don't even care if we win or lose. Obviously, a win would be huge. But if they just go in and show some fight, and as long as Kevin is healthy enough to play a postseason tournament, then I'm okay to slow down and breathe a little bit here before I get really, really worried. Again, I've said this before too. It feels a lot like the Chiefs season where lose some games we shouldn't, some crazy things happen, but maybe come postseason play, crank that notch back up and we're golden. I'm not predicting a national championship or the Final Four by any means yet. I don't feel good about that. But I do feel good about this team's best ball could still potentially be in front of them. It's not ideal, though. Having Kevin McCullar hurt towards the end of the year reminds you of so many other seasons past. So hopefully he's okay. But anything else you want to touch on?
No, I think we're set.
All right, we'll wrap it up there. I'm going to be out of town the next few days, so not sure how many more episodes we get up. We might try and squeeze one in before Houston, but if anything, we'll have one after the Houston matchup, looking ahead to Big 12 tournament, of course, and kind of go on from there. Those of you that have checked out the podcast, thank you again so much. Hit that subscribe button here because we've got a lot more stuff coming. Chris and I have some baseball stuff in the works, a couple episodes, a couple guests lined up. We've got a big football guest in the works. Not going to announce it yet until it's official. But we have some fun two football guests actually lined up. One professional, one college. I'll just kind of say that. And then some other fun college basketball stuff that we'll get to kind of towards March Madness. And then Chris, CJ, and I will dive into all the Chiefs offseason. Still plenty to talk about there. So if you have been checking us out and you are a Chiefs fan, Royals fan, KU football, KU basketball fan, hit that subscribe button. Let us know what you're feeling in the comment section. How do you feel about this team? Are you confident in our chances of coming down the stretch here with ending the season on a positive note to go into postseason, or are you still worried like JB is over here going, man, there's just no chance? So let us know what you think. You can hit us up Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as well at KCSA Pod. But until then, Tuesday night, Allen Fieldhouse. Let's go get a dub on senior night against in-state rival, double-digit blowout. Give us a little bit of peace for a few days until that Houston matchup. I think KU fans would love that. But that's going to do it for now. Again, thank you guys for checking us out. And as always, rock chalk.
Rock chalk.